Welcome to the Voice of San Diego podcast in partnership with News Radio 600 Coco. I am Scott Lewis, the CEO and editor-in-chief at Voice of San Diego, and she remains the coolest person I know, Bella Ross.
I was scared you were going to say Andrea.
No.
Scared?
Andrea,
Facts.
well, no, Andrea, you're the coolest person I know.
Thank you.
And he certainly picked a year to go all in on SDSU men's basketball. Maybe should have picked the women's team. He's Jacob McQuinney. Hello, sir.
Hello, Scott. You know, I have been really wanting to make it to a women's game, so maybe this is added encouragement. It has certainly been a year.
It's been a year.
You've never been to one.
I mean, I have in the past, but not this season.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And she is donning her Canadian tuxedo today. She's always fabulous. She's Andrea Sanchez Villafana. Hello.
Hey, Lewis.
Coming up on the show this week, Mayor Todd Gloria delivered his State of the City speech last week. It wasn't without some controversy and some shouting. He talked about 3 big projects, though, he said he's definitely going to see through. And when he says it, it happens. We'll go through them. As promised, we'll unpack everything he said, or at least some of it, and see if our predictions were right. And San Diego Unified trustee Richard Barrera is poised to get the endorsement of the state's largest teachers union for state superintendent. And we'll explain what that means, or what that person even does.
Pero primero, if you love our City Hall coverage, our coverage of the mayor, city council members, and the decisions that they are making that affect you and your community, we are close to fully funding our City Hall reporter, Mariana Martinez Barba. Support local reporting that keeps you informed and keeps officials accountable by making a donation online at vosd.org/cityhall.
So we got a few, right?
Yeah.
We got one that highlighted another reporter's effort to cover City Hall. So Luis says, Will Huntsberry's piece on Todd Gloria got me to renew. Phenomenal piece. I wish that he didn't have to see that, but
Maybe he won't.
maybe he
I'm
won't.
not convinced he listens to the podcast.
That's fair.
Don says, to communicate better with my daughter who lives in San Diego. That's a very, very sweet, heartwarming one. I really like that.
I love that. Like, hey, did you hear about the CEQA exemption that the mayor's...
I don't know that'll help them communicate better, but may give them things to talk about. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Margaret says, VOSD does the deep dive into San Diego policies and politics that I can't find in the UT or KPBS. That's kind of shady, Margaret, but I'll take it.
They're UT and KPBS over here catching strays. And Christine says, I love the podcast and love Mackenzie Elmer's pieces. Well, we'll let Mackenzie know. Thank you all. And again, if you want to donate, please go to vosd.org/City Hall. That's vosd.org/City Hall. Hey, so we are experimenting with something new. We are putting the show on video on the YouTube. It's a popular platform launched after Voice of San Diego.
Oh,
yeah.
Or
has not
it might have
nearly
been right
seen
before.
our
But
success.
yeah, slightly, maybe a little bit more successful than Voice San
A
Diego.
little.
So you're saying Voice just needs a Charlie bit my finger moment.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we need something.
What's our Charlie bit my finger moment?
Something needs to skyrocket it. But we've so if you have any feedback on that, you can check it out at the Voice of San Diego's account on the YouTube, the platform. And we've been getting some messages from people. We're going to go through a couple. So Debbie wrote in and said, why do safe parking lots require users to leave each morning? Why can't they stay there instead of having to look for a place each day? I'm a volunteer with the police department's senior patrol. One of our duties is to verify the homeless encampments and RVs that are reported on the Get It Done app, so that when an officer responds, they're still there. We see the same RVs moving from spot to spot, and we wonder, why can't they just stay in a safe lot day and night? So the H Barracks site, you found out, is just it's the rule.
So it has something to do with its permit.
Yeah.
That's only permitted for a certain amount of hours. We don't know why. We'll work on it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, so we got a partial answer. That's the technical reason. We don't exactly know the origin of that. Now, obviously, if you allow people to park all day and night, that turns into more of a established settlement. Probably people need to be there, staffing it more, or otherwise keeping it maintained and clean. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. But we'll get back to you.
All right, and we have another one here from Hal that says, the president of the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance apparently makes $2 million a year total. The alliance has more than $1 billion in net assets. It doesn't need parking revenue. Shouldn't the city get all of the parking revenue? Only the wealthy and some tourists can easily afford the zoo now, yet the city subsidizes it to the tune of $20 million per year. Why continue that? Since the 1,800-acre safari park belongs to the water utility, does the alliance pay fair market rent as required by the city charter? Not even close. Why not? The city is allowing the alliance to run wild. I see what you did there, Hal.
That was
good.
a pretty good one.
Yeah, so that spurred us. We're going to look into the lease at the zoo and give you some. So the zoo does lease the land in Balboa Park and leases the parking lot. So it is it's theirs to control. They made a deal with the city, it sounds like, to share some of the revenue from that parking lot that they're charging. Now, I would quibble that only the wealthy and some tourists can easily afford the zoo right now, because you can get a membership still for, what is it?
Like $130 or something?
That's still pretty reasonable. Now, obviously, with the parking charges, they're bound to increase that next year or maybe ongoing years. Yeah, thank you, Hal. We're going to dig in a little bit and see what we can uncover about just how much they're paying. And there's no way it's fair market value. Fair market value for that much land in Balboa Park would be just tremendous amount of money, right?
I didn't realize the safari park belonged to the water utility.
Yeah.
Do we know why that is?
Well, water agencies generally own a lot of random pieces of land for the water rights and for the ability to put things there that move water. So it's not odd for them to own random pieces of land in certain spots, but worth looking into as well.
That's a huge piece of land.
So they have like pipes over there.
Yes.
That's what we're saying, probably. Okay.
As we discussed too when we were looking at the property tax bills that you get, the zoo does have its own line item there and does get a significant amount of money from city taxpayers in addition. Whether that is needed or should be more broadly distributed to Balboa Park needs has been an issue that keeps coming up. And I don't really, guy makes $2 million or leader of the Zoo Wildlife Alliance makes, that's whatever. It's a very big operation. I think that question of whether they need that dedicated tax ongoing to subsidize operations, it's worth bantering about.
Scott doesn't care about the pandas.
I do care about the pandas. Well, the pandas are the worst of the animals.
You hate pandas.
I don't hate them. I'm just very underwhelmed. I swear, I still hold that evolution just looked at them and said, you're cute. We'll let you go. Because there's no way they survived real evolution. Like they have no ability to actually
all the predators
fight anything off. Yeah, it's like everybody was just like, okay, let's let them be. They're pretty.
Can they not attack? They are bears.
No, they can't do anything.
No, they're very, very.
So Kung Fu Panda's a lie.
Kung Fu Panda is
the nature of that movie is the truth.
Yeah,
the panda bear in that movie is very harmless and kind of lazy until he embraces the spirit of
our
the Kung
pandas
Fu.
just need a wise turtle.
Yeah.
To teach them how to fight.
I did read something. I have no idea. I have not fact checked it, but
Sure, let's just spread this information.
We're just dropping.
But apparently, pandas were something of a mythological figure that people hadn't really seen until Teddy Roosevelt's kids went on some expedition looking for one, and within 2 hours, found a panda.
People in America hadn't seen.
I think they just hadn't been seen very often for many, many years. I mean, they were known to be real, but also semi-mythological because they were just out there in these remote parts of China. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a fluke. Evolution should have taken care of that. But I'm glad they're around. They're cute.
Don't need our parking revenue. That's
they
for
don't.
sure.
Is your position that evolution should just destroy cute creatures?
I'm just saying like cute and, survivors. Like a peacock is cute, but also, they can defend themselves. But I don't know. A panda would fall quickly to any kind of determined predator. It seems
They're
like
very floppy.
they're
That's like
just like the drunk uncles of the animal kingdom.
I imagine most predators would have a hard time getting through that hide, though. I mean, not really a hide, but a bunch of fat, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe there's if you're a zoologist out there and you want to come set us straight, I would
Send
love to
us
hear
a
from you.
note.
Yeah, send us a note. Tell us why pandas still exist the way they do.
All right, so speaking of paid parking, I didn't necessarily want to get into this week, but there were sort of two triggering things for me. Did you see the mayors from other cities come out and be like, you can't charge for parking at Balboa Park? Like, on the one, I'm just like, just leave. You got no role here. But then second, the institutions got together, the Balboa Park Cultural Partnership, and had a big showing of opposition to the Balboa Park paid parking. There's a definite sense that there's blood in the water on this issue, and that like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Like they think they can maybe make a difference, get it done. So I'll be interested to see if the mayor or city council bend on it. But this group got together and said that all the museums and such are having a lot of trouble. They say, quote, this is from David Garrick's story in the Union Tribune. Declines in park visits, which range from 20% to more than 50%, depending on the specific day and attraction, could reduce overall revenue between $20 million and $30 million. That's a bold claim. Now, what got me is throughout Garrick's piece, and I don't know if he did this on purpose, but he tells a sort of like parallel secondary story in almost like every other paragraph. And it says, like, for instance, here he says, while the partnership declined to provide specific comparison data for the roughly 50 individual organizations it represents, some summary data from a few was revealed. And then later in the piece, he talks about the Model Railroad Museum and the leader there, Michael Warburton. And he said, quote, Warburton declined to give specific revenue and attendance numbers used to calculate the percentages. The mayor's spokesman, David Rowland, said the partnership has declined requests from the mayor for more detailed data on early trends. Come on. If you're going to come out and say, like, we're going to lay people off, we're going to lose $20 million, and then everybody's like, oh, show us the numbers. And it's only been 2 weeks in January, which is always like a decline from other months. And you're not going to say like, oh, here's the data that proves that.
Right.
That's garbage. I'm sorry. You cannot do that. That's not a fair play in the cultural or the public affairs culture.
It reminds me of that meme of somebody kind of levitating, right? And he said they're making some bold claim and then somebody saying source, and they're just levitating. There's just no actual source. It's just I made it up.
Yeah.
Well, like especially given the fact that they've been making this argument now for like almost a year that their attendance is going to be severely impacted by like Balboa Park paid parking. So I'm like clearly you had to have been thinking about your attendance numbers a little bit. Like that couldn't have been some big mystery. But on top of that, I assume that I think that it's not wild to assume that attendance will be somewhat impacted in the long term by
100%.
paid parking. But like in the first, everybody's very mad right now. It's very fresh. Like I do think like my assumption is that it's going to cool down.
There is no question in my mind that there's people thinking twice about going to Balboa Park right now. No question. And I went and spoke at an event there recently. I had to pay $16. I was like, what is that? That seems high. It was in the zoo parking lot. So I can see people like getting, definitely people who regularly go that, you're not going to pay that much money or whatever. And if the portal for residents is high or difficult to get through, totally understand. I do not disagree or I do not challenge sort of the basic idea that might be happening. I'm saying if you're going to come out and blast the city and put out those big numbers, like come with the receipts. Like you have to.
Well, they may have them, but they may not want to show how many people go to these museums.
Yeah, there's that. It brings up so many questions. Why aren't you showing us those receipts? Yeah.
Do you think the train museum, their 20% decline is like 5 people to 4 people or something?
They had to lay people off like last year. Remember, there was a thing like there's what's going on, just maybe there's other things going on. Like I don't.
I gotta say, before that news, I didn't even know there was a railroad museum.
Well, you don't have
train
kids.
museum.
Yeah, it's a very, very kid thing. We did a story about the maintenance issues at Balboa Park, and one of them was that their stuff gets like urine on it because it's not the pipes aren't secured and stuff like that. So yeah, it's
not a
thing.
sexy museum.
It is.
Is it?
The kids love it, dude. Stop.
I don't think you should put sexy and kids in the same sentence, Scott.
Sorry.
You should
I
separate
didn't
that a
say
little bit.
she's well, yeah. It's
It's attractive to the children
the kids love
because
it.
of the trains.
The trains and the old guys showing them all the trains and yeah, it's
So what long term, how do you think this plays out? I mean, the only real way to persuade, I think, in a way that matters is to start collecting this data in a robust way and show it to people. Again, it's like put up or shut up here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't. It's hard because I do buy like parking is valuable. Those are valuable public spaces. That's a public land, and to give it away so people can store their cars is a choice that has a sacrifice to it. The sacrifice is like, to the maintenance and all that stuff. However, the way the city's done it is just awful. Like they're acting like, oh, this is a dedicated stream for Balboa Park, even though like all it did was replace what the city was already putting into it. It's not adding any value. It's not making Balboa Park better. All it did was make Balboa Park more expensive to go to. So I can completely understand why people are upset about it. But also, they should have done it when times were better, and they could have put the money into like actually making Balboa Park better. Because eventually, you're gonna have to pay to park at a cultural icon like that. Nobody doesn't pay to park at a stadium or at Disneyland or at amusement parks or whatever. Like you have to usually pay to park. It's not the gem in the middle of the city is not going to be free to park at forever. But they picked the absolute worst time and the absolute worst way to roll it out. And there's no question.
Well, this is what we talked about when they were also doing the increase of parking in downtown, when there's a event at Petco Park. Like
Right.
I was saying that, yes, it is valuable to charge something higher for those parking spots, but this is just poor timing.
Yeah.
If you had done it earlier, then maybe we could have all gotten on board. But
And something that I think gets lost in this conversation is that, like you said, I think there are a lot of legitimate reasons to charge like a modest parking fee. I think what they're charging now, especially in comparison to going from being free, feels really extreme.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's especially hurtful when you couple it with the fact that bus service is actively being like potentially like cut back and becoming more expensive because
And it was already hard to get to Balboa Park on the bus. Yeah.
right, because like one of like the best cases for this is like, oh well, you start charging for parking, but then like so many people who go to the park who live near the park, because the vast majority of the people who visit Balboa Park every day live in District 3, the neighborhoods directly surrounding it, will choose a more sustainable option because they don't want to pay for parking. But it's like just as expensive to take the bus, and it's longer and it's less convenient. So it's not like it's actually like just being squeezed from all ends.
Yeah. It's classic city. Like maybe pursuing the right route that they're going to be stubborn on, but then like absolutely choosing the worst timing, worst rollout, and not showing any benefit from it. So other than like a deficit that nobody quite understands or cares about.
it'll be interesting to see what happens. Councilmember Stephen Whitburn told Mariana, our City Hall reporter, that he wants the council to come to a consensus on repealing the fee.
Oof. I would bet, here's my prediction. I think they're going to get rid of fees for residents. I think they're just going to like zero that out and somehow try to like boost the tourism revenue and not for, and they'll still charge the out of city residents.
Yeah.
That's my prediction, because I don't, and they kind of hinted at that in this Garrick story that like that might be like a potential compromise, but it's not over. There's definitely blood in the water on this one.
That was my pitch to Bella, remember the other day? Said if I was mayor for the day,
Yeah, just
I
get
would
rid
make
of
it free for residents.
Yeah.
I mean, even that, though, it seems like a very difficult proposition to get people to, get a resident card? I mean,
So they've been tying it to the car. So you register your car.
Oh, okay.
And then, you pull up, and just like at our building, like it then like, recognizes your car or whatever.
Fair enough.
So we had Will in here last week to talk about his story. And one of the key themes of his story was that the Mayor Todd Gloria of the city of San Diego and the city council have a dysfunctional relationship, that they don't know where each other are on big issues, that all these votes are failing, that they're just not working together. Now the mayor, and we called it a form of gaslighting, like insisted that they had a quote extremely functional relationship. And somebody brought up, like, remember when Filner was mayor, and he pushed Todd Gloria up against the wall and threatened him on some port appointment or whatever. There's moments where it's gotten stupider than this. But
that happened?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Is there footage somewhere?
He marched into a city council meeting and pointed at Todd and said, "Come," and they got him off the dais into the back room, and there was some altercation of some kind.
You hear scuffling in the back.
Yeah,
It's just like,
that's crazy.
I broke that story. Yeah.
oh my God.
Man.
Yeah.
You've been chasing like spicy stories since day one.
Yeah. So I think it's not that, but they're not on the same page for anything, right?
Yeah.
And so then we did that, and the mayor says, "No, we're extremely functional." And then the State of the City speech comes the next day, right, that afternoon, and it's everybody sees this front row is empty, and it's set aside for the city council, and we poke around.
Wait, no, immediately something is off.
Yeah.
Because they welcome them one by one,
Yeah.
right? And just last year, they would come in, everybody does a little clap, and they sit in the front row.
Yeah.
But immediately, they all start going behind him.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Why are you guys sitting behind him? That's so weird.
Yeah. In the days above him, and the front row remains empty with their signs saying So it turns out that Vivian Moreno, in particular, city council member, was upset that the city was only letting in a few people from the public. And she's like, "Look, I have my seat behind him, so I'll just go sit there, and this frees up a seat." And it turned into this thing where they're pretty upset with each other. All the city council members follow her to that. And so did they leave? Did they invite more public to sit in those seats? No.
It was a whole situation. I was there. There were actually 4 of us from Voice of San Diego there. It was borderline overkill, but then it ended up being such a situation that it ended up being really helpful that there were so many of us there. But there's people standing outside, clamoring outside the door to the council chambers, because they only let in, by my count, 9 members of the public.
Yeah.
They said they were going to let in 15. And Vivian was like, "Hell no, I'm sitting on the dais, let in more." And then they let in fewer than 15.
Yeah.
And then everybody's clamoring outside, and then you don't see that on a live stream. All you see is these empty seats in the front row. It's very...
And ultimately, it seems like it might have been a good decision, because half of the people they left in, erupted
Right.
in protest
No.
at different points throughout the speech. 4 of the 9 people that they let in had to be escorted out. They're protesting in the middle of the speech. And I'm like... it kind of makes sense. I'm like, anybody who's going to come out in the middle of the day to go to the State of the City speech has something to say.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not just there to listen and clap politely.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, if Vivian made that choice, right? I'm going to open up my seat. She told Mariana, our City Hall reporter, District 8 elected me to sit there and represent them. So, I'm going to sit up there. How weird would it have been for her to sit up there by herself? It obviously created this trickle effect where all the other council members are like, okay, I'll give up my seat.
Right. And so we don't often hear from her. She doesn't make big, proclamations or go to the media with much. But she did talk to Mariana and tell her that they had an exchange that she found sexist. So the mayor went up to her and said, what did he say?
This was at the end of his speech. So he turns around, he's shaking everyone's hands, and he says something to her. And she told Mariana that, she told her this whole story about why she decided to give up her seat. But then she says, he told me I can smile, or I should smile. And she was just so fired up about this. She said that was a sexist comment, and how many women in elected office, I mean, just women in general, have been told, you should smile.
So that's a thing that you guys don't like?
No. I mean, how often is it that you're like walking down the street and some random old man is like, smile.
Oh, really? Gross.
Yeah, it's not a good vibe.
So-
At least once a month.
So here's some of what Vivian said. Quote, he told me, and she's talking about Mayor Gloria here, he told me that I could smile, which I found to be a very sexist comment. How many women of power have been told to smile more? And then she went on and said, quote, the more I sit and simmer, it makes me angrier and angrier that he has that in his heart, that his reaction to me sitting up there was I could smile more. He's trying to control me. We're not going to be controlled. I mean, those are
He's trying to control me.
See, this is...
those are some fiery words.
It's a good example of an extremely functional relationship.
Exactly,
I
yeah.
mean, even before all that happened, like in the video that I ended up clipping together, you see him like walk up and she's sitting on the dais and like gives him like a closed mouth smile. It was like very like...
Well, she also didn't stand up. All the council members stood up when he was coming up to them, and she was the only one who didn't stand up until he came up to her, and then she stood up. So there was a
Well, it was like
tension.
it was visibly tense.
Yeah. I mean, some of them weren't clapping during the speech.
Right.
I think you
Did
mean
they do the Nancy Pelosi? That would have been cool. Like,
I think you mean it was functionally tense, right?
Yeah.
Functionally tense.
extremely dysfunctional tense. All right, so let's get into the meat. I can just hear them now. Like, look, they're just talking about all this garbage. What about the actual speech? All right, let's get into it. Let's do it.
I identified 3 pieces of news
Okay,
in that speech.
let's
And
go.
it was kind of like, for as much talking as happened, maybe you could have hoped for more. But, well, we can start with the sports arena.
All right. Twist my arm. So the first, so there was some news on that, or sort of. So let's play that clip that he said about the sports arena.
Public land should serve the public. And right now, serving the public means building more homes. So this spring, I will bring this project forward for public hearings and a vote from the City Council.
Okay. So that was, I had a lot of people say, like, what happens this spring? So I tried to figure it out. Let's go back to the one big question we have. So we reported and others reported, and the developers of the Midway Rising project believe that they don't have to worry about the height limit removed that the voters passed, right? That because the court shot that down and because they're building above 30 feet, it's not a big deal. They're fine. They can still pierce that height limit because of the state's density bonus law.
Pierce.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a striking choice of
one,
words.
yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm a writer. So they can build higher. Now they can't build an arena under 30 feet. They can't build some of the other things they need under 30 feet. And so they are ready. They're like, this density bonus allows us. We're building affordable housing. We clearly qualify for that density bonus. It's all set. Don't worry about it. But the mayor and the city attorney have very conspicuously not said that. They have not said they agree with that interpretation. And every time I see something like that, I'm like, there's something else going on there. And I keep trying to figure out. So first of all, what he's talking about with the spring vote is the lease. So they still have to decide. This is city land. This is almost 50 acres of city land. And if they're going to let this developers have it or control it, they're either going to buy it or lease it. And the lease is going to be a long-term lease. And, you can imagine it being like a significant amount of money they pay the city or just like $1. I have no idea. Like, it'll be really interesting to see what they propose about how much they're going to pay the city for this, right? Because usually it's probably going to be something really small, but in exchange, they'll build this park or that park or whatever else, right? So that'll be the other is to do the environmental impact report and present it and get the city to say, like, that's the official environmental impact report for this project. And thus it's, you can read it and challenge it or whatever if you want, right? But that doesn't answer the question again, is this, does density bonus really facilitate this? And that's when I heard that what the city's actually thinking of doing is going to get state law changed. Either change the density bonus law to make it clear that it's okay, or get a CEQA exemption straight out. Now, the when they build these stadiums like they did in Inglewood, still the most expensive stadium ever built in Inglewood, SoFi Stadium, where the Chargers and Rams play, they didn't have to worry about CEQA lawsuits because the state legislature and the governor passed a special law saying this project does not have to worry about CEQA. The California Environmental Quality Act doesn't care about this stadium. It's free. You can do whatever, we agree this is a fine project. We don't need to worry about the environment with it. You got it. So, yeah. So that stadium was built by Stan Kroenke. Stan Kroenke is the owner of the Rams and the owner of other sports teams, and he is the 90% or whatever stakeholder of the Midway Rising project and the arena. And so I think that they're hoping that he can use whatever Kroenke, big money power he's got, and the city can use whatever its legislative, effort can muster to get a special little exemption.
Are you saying?
I am saying
that this project that has stumbled over so many hoops that leaders have tried to jump through, is now creating a new high stakes hoop through which it must jump.
I am. And clearly we'll be able to jump through, right? No question.
If history is any teacher, they will have no problem jumping through this new high stakes hoop. I mean, this just seems...
This is an interesting window into what's going on. I don't think the developers want them to jump through this hoop. I think the developers are like, hey, chill, we got this. We have the density bonus law. Let them sue. We're ready to go. Don't worry about it.
And this is basically an admission by the city that, we're not so sure that the density bonus law applies here.
Would love some reassurance.
But is it a plan B?
I don't know. I think
C?
there's a big debate about whether they're going to do this or not. The developers don't want to wait. They're like, let's go spring, let's get our permits, dig.
Developers famously love delays.
Yeah. So I think this is a really interesting thing. So if we see an official move to get a legislation like this passed, does San Diego have the juice, first of all, that LA did and other places did to get their special arenas exemptions?
I think I can answer that.
I mean,
no.
Juiceless city.
Juiceless city.
It sounds like this Stan the man has got some juice.
He does, but again, those guys don't necessarily want them to pursue this. So I don't know. I'm very intrigued. So there's a little drama set up for you. I don't know how it's gonna turn out or what's at stake exactly, but that's the little view of what's happening.
Masterclass.
I think you should do post.
Yeah, I put a little
For our
mention in the
website.
politics report, but I could do more. All right, that was the one piece of news. What's the second?
Second piece of news, I have a quote for us here. We will be asking the city council to approve a 5-year, $118 million modernization plan for the convention center and to approve the first $21 million to launch this work almost immediately.
Almost immediately.
Almost, whatever that means.
They're waiting for
It's either immediately or not, right? It's,
August.
It's almost unique. No, it's either unique or not.
Somebody put immediately in there, and then some editor went in afterwards was like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's looking like August, September.
What would be almost immediately? Is in the whole of the galaxy, almost immediately could be 100,000 years.
Even just within the whole of this plan for the convention center.
Yeah, exactly. It's 20 years.
Scott, what do you think your wife would say if she asked you to bring a new roll of toilet paper and you said, I'm going to bring it almost immediately?
Well, we don't need to get into that. Sometimes I have learned as a husband over the last 2 decades that you do things faster than you might think you should.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No room for almost in marriage, huh?
Okay, so a couple of things interesting about this. They are collecting $70 million a year now for the convention center expansion. That's not happening, that this is now replacing. So does that I think the big question is, does that mean like no plan for major expansion for at least 5 years? Every time I ask the city and the mayor staff this, they're like, "Oh no, we got something. We'll figure it out. It's got something coming."
Almost immediately.
I did hear from Wonder Woman.
Did
You
actually?
reached out to her publicist?
I got Wonder Woman, the publicist for Wonder Woman.
Did
the
you call
actual
the
Wonder
Justice
Woman.
League?
And she said she's cautiously optimistic that a convention center expansion is still possible.
You're full of shit. The actual publicist for is this? Who is this? Okay.
I thought it was assumed Wonder Woman was a creation of fiction.
Well, yes, but I would assume that like the character has some sort of like media apparatus.
I don't know.
I don't know.
No, I just imagined what she would say, and I bet a politic answer would be like, "No, it's
She's
I'm
cautiously
cautiously
optimistic,
optimistic.
that almost immediately this will happen.
almost immediately." So yeah, they're gonna replace the HVAC. They're gonna replace the roof. I would assume modernization has to be some new like TVs, right? They got to get some new monitors,
Some
LED
technology,
lights,
perhaps.
signage,
Yeah.
some nice holograms.
Huh.
Seems like the place where some holograms. should be.
What hologram do you think would be most appropriate?
Well,
for the
you
convention center?
change the hologram. So if it's the urologist, it'd be one thing, but if it was Comic-Con, it would be another.
urologist. It's like a anthropomorphized like kidney stone,
Or, yeah.
and if it's like Comic-Con, it's Wonder Woman.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. If there must be some kind of like hologram display or something for the modernization part, because otherwise it's just like a new roof and stuff. That's not fun. That's not modern. That's just fixing.
I mean, $118 million can probably do a lot of things.
Yeah. All right. The third bit of news.
The third bit of news relates to Golden Hall and redevelopment plans for Golden Hall.
The hall
involving-
that is definitely golden.
Yeah, I
There-
walk past it a lot. It is shining. It is smelling some kind of way. All the things.
Okay, hold on. Stop for a second. We can give Golden Hall its due grief because it deserves it, except it's got a core history. It's where Comic-Con started. And it was the home of my favorite event every 2 years, Election Central. And they've killed Election Central, which was, I think, a special and unique thing that San Diego did every election, where they used to hand out the results there. And so it became like this hub of activity on election nights. And you could go there and see everybody and see the reporters. And that's all over. And it became a homeless shelter. And now it's just nothing.
To be
yeah,
fair,
I never witnessed that, unfortunately.
Yeah,
You didn't?
Didn't the pandemic kill Election Central though?
Yes.
Okay.
And then they made it a homeless shelter, and that just drove the stake in. Nathan Fletcher, when he was still in office, said, "I want to bring Election Central back," and then he left.
Well,
What an inside baseball promise that is.
pandering
I made a
to
big deal out of it. I had like
somebody,
4
maybe.
people outraged that it was done.
So he was
It was special.
campaigning specifically for you.
For
huh?
you.
Yeah.
But I was kind of surprised to hear the San Diego Community College District dropped in this conversation. And maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. One of you could tell me. But I also was surprised to learn that apparently they own one of the biggest collections of African art.
Obviously.
That exists. And that's like a really big part of this. They want to turn it into like a museum / like housing development. Obviously, every development that gets pitched now is like all of the things.
Okay, well, this is an old San Diego template. So when the city wants to build something and doesn't have the money to do it, it often looks at a school district that has just passed a bond. So San Diego Community College just last election cycle passed its own property tax increase and bond, right? It's supposed to be used for modernization of its buildings, holograms maybe, and housing and other things, right? And so they are flush now with a bunch of the cash now from this tax, and they can borrow a bunch of money. And so it makes sense because now dial back 20 years or whatever, the city wanted to build the Central Library, the new one, and they were about $20 million short. And they called up the school district and said,
Schoolbrary.
they said, I don't know who came up with that, but they said, how about you put a school in the library and that'll help it be done. So they said, great, we'll put a school in. But then they found out that schools have to have certain earthquake standards, and the library would not be built with those standards. And so they said, well, you could do a charter school because charter schools don't have to be as safe. And the school district, which was famously anti-charter school and had never actually invested in the construction of a charter school building, agreed to build what became E3 Civic High, right? And so they also said you can't put an elementary school, as they originally thought there, because the kids couldn't run down the stairs with their little legs if there was a problem.
This is crazy. I didn't know any of this.
They were just so desperate to get it on.
They
on the
came up
ground
with
floor. I guess the third floor.
Yeah,
was it?
the fourth. I
Get
think.
it on the fourth floor.
They and so they came up with the only type of school, a high school with the kids with longer legs who could run down the stairs in the event of emergency, not little legs, longer legs, and a charter school so that it wouldn't have to have the same earthquake. So it is a template in city politics if you want to build something downtown and you're a little short. Now, a college district can they have long legs, so they don't need to worry about it.
And this is something that the community college district has been thinking about for months and months. I talked to Chancellor Greg Smith sometime last year about the potential for this.
Didn't we have breakfast with him?
We did, yeah, we did. And they have been looking for a new place for their world art collection, which actually it's quite interesting. And he is not underselling how inconveniently located it is. It's in like a dark, dusty corner of the library on Mesa College's campus that's really inaccessible to a lot of people, and it is a very, very cool collection, honestly. And so it does, I think, for the community college district, offer it a very interesting opportunity to get a much larger footprint. They're currently working on their first student housing project adjacent to San Diego City College. They hope to build more student housing on this site. And they say that they hope and they think that most of this can be funded through philanthropy and not even have to dip into their bond funds. I mean, we'll see. There are also, as you rightly pointed out, or maybe hinted at, potential whispers of San Diego Unified building something there as well, which I don't know how great an idea. I don't necessarily think they need
they're
additional
bursting
schools.
at the seams. Enrollment. So this is key. Now, that if they can get a couple key investors or agencies to partner with, then they can really, truly kick off the Civic Center redevelopment that the City of San Diego and Prebys Foundation have been trying to pull off for a while. And it really is a sore, fact that if you walk from our office in Greater Little Italy to Petco Park, the worst part of that walk is the city's center. Like, it's the heart of the city. There's no question that's the ugliest, least safe feeling of all of those stretches, and that's stupid.
You can also be very clear too, it smells bad.
Yeah, it smells bad. It's a little better they cleaned it up. The Prebys Foundation and others for the Wednesday thing. There's plants instead of feces in certain parts. That's nice, and it feels like they're clearly trying to make it better. But so maybe this is the start of the catalyst.
This is one of those things where I am fiercely pro redevelopment.
Yeah.
I think it would be amazing to have a space that showcased civic pride and that was activated and exciting and fun and interesting to be at. I mean, it's such a shame that we've had to exist with, the pile of crap that has been there for so long.
I don't know if people know this, but one of the interesting parts about the City Hall Civic Center area is that underneath that main plaza, there's all of this underground shared infrastructure. They're
a power plant, right?
Yeah, there's a Siamese twin. They can't just cut it apart or else they'll bleed and die. So you
very vivid imagery there.
So you gotta have a really good surgeon to pull all those elements apart.
So this project and this proposal was one of the things that kind of tipped this whole speech over the edge for me, which was so much of this speech seemed to be, the city is doing X, Y, and Z, but we are relying on other people to do X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
I mean, obviously collaboration when it comes to politics is vital, but whether it's this, whether it was, talking about Caltrans and cleaning stuff up on, next to freeways, which he touted, or whether it was another shout out for the county and behavioral health and mental health services is, reminder that the county is the one. The
Was that a walk back, by the way? What do you think? So let's describe.
It was a reminder. Last
year in the State of the City, he said, like, if you see a troubled homeless person on the street, you should think of the county. That was a really controversial way to put it. Like, it was just like, it's not our fault.
Yeah.
And this year he said what? It was like, I still want you to think of the county, but we're all in it together kind of thing.
Yeah, it was like, we're friends, but like all of us have to pull our weight.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we kind of like, we've been talking about this for the last year since he said it, that he's been like villainizing the county.
Yeah.
And so clearly that wasn't a popular way to frame it, and just like was feeding into this like really weird image of him as just kind of like blaming it on everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt like a walk back, but also still had that like between the lines, like, no, actually we all need to get it together.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that this whole thing about the Civic Center too is like another example of him kind of leading from behind. Like again, remember last year he said, we are done talking about the Civic Center because we are in the era of austerity and nobody wants us to be like, buying new shoes. Yeah, we're going to wear our old shoes. We're not going to like glitz this. And then the Previs Foundation and others were like, whoa, like this is a big project. You don't have to spend any money. Like, let us still do this. And they were the ones that now have brought this all together. And I think it's like, it's the same thing that the tax is going through. He's like, well, I'll see if I want to get on board. You're the mayor. Like, why don't you lay it out? And like, what should be happening? Who should be coming to the table and all that stuff? And it's like over and over again, like same thing with the density bonus in the Midway. It's like, well, the developers are leading that. Well, this is the city's like second crown jewel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are we doing? Like, what?
that was the craziest thing about this speech to me was that, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was said that was also news that like wasn't actually really new information, kind of like, the county stuff, but like I feel like the top line issues that were mentioned in terms of new information were all about these like new developments. And that's like very kind of like different from his approach last year, even though this year he was very clear that we still are very financially troubled as a city, but then like didn't mention Balboa Park parking and all these things, and then like really drove home these like new developments. And I think it just felt very out of touch to a lot of people. Like, we posted a video, people were talking about this, even though like, if you are familiar with the specifics of these projects, like a lot of them are funded by these outside sources that like aren't really going to directly interact with like revenue that's generated by Balboa Park or whatever. It's all like very separate, but like it looks kind of bad to be like, actually we're still broke and we're charging more than ever, and like we're going to invest in all these things that like you may or may not care about.
Well, and also like there's this trash fee repeal like probably happening, or at least going on the ballot, almost certainly, right? And so it'd be like having a speech, but an asteroid is coming, and you're like, and the Chargers had a good season, or like, it's there's an asteroid coming for the city's budget right now, and it's like heading toward it. And maybe we should talk about it. I don't know.
It is pretty incredible how apt of, a metaphor it is that a trash fee, charging for trash, is something that could just implode the city's budget. You know what I mean?
All right. One of the agents or architects of the idea of putting the school in the library to help fund it, the charter school that was a high school, and the kids with longer legs that could run out the building if something happened, was Richard Barrera. He has been, no question, the most prominent force on the San Diego Unified School District Board for the last 20 years. He's the guy that, even if he's not the chair, he's the chair. He's the guy that shut down the housing thing a couple months ago. He's the guy who, he's the guy in the politics of the San Diego Unified School District. And
not just San Diego Unified. His reach is quite large.
Well, as he wants to do now, he's running for state superintendent, and he got a big boost. But before we get into that, Jacob, I asked you to explain what the state superintendent does and why it matters. What's at stake, as we sometimes say at Voice San Diego. So can you do that?
Yeah, so the state superintendent role is a weird one because it kind of the responsibilities overlap with multiple different other sort of entities.
So we have a governor in charge of executing state law and state agencies, but he's not in charge of this.
So we have a governor and a legislature in charge of developing policies, crafting, legislation that determines how education policy, how we educate kids. We have a state board of education that is also in charge of creating policy around certain things, stuff like, how we judge academic achievement, what we want kids to achieve. And then we have a state superintendent of public education who sort of like exists in between all of these people. In this
he's not appointed by the board.
He's publicly elected statewide. And he... their job as state superintendent of public education is to essentially manage the California Department of Education, which oversees a whole bunch of stuff, whether or not schools and districts are following state laws, state policies. And also, most importantly, because, again, this position is such a soft power position, what he kind of is in charge of is the conversation. I mean, really, this is a largely sort of bully pulpit role. Somebody who is in charge of setting the tone of conversation, of somebody who's able to take positions on different policies, somebody who is able to really try to sway from their perch in this statewide elected role. And what's fascinating at this moment is the governor is proposing to sort of take some of these roles away from the state superintendent. He is proposing to essentially give more power to the state board and to create an executive director role that is appointed by the governor to oversee the California Department of Education, while also giving the state superintendent a role on the State Board of Education. So it is just an incredibly complex mix of things. This new change could drain some of what little power the state superintendent has, and again, make this role even more just a bully pulpit role, somebody who works behind the scenes or in front of the camera to try to persuade, to try to navigate and shift the conversation around education. And when you look at stuff like that, the soft power element of this, it's hard to imagine somebody who has wielded that kind of power more effectively in San Diego County than one Richard Barrera.
Yeah. So what happened last week?
So Barrera is one of the lower profile candidates in this race. There are folks like Al Muratsuchi, who's the chair of the Assembly's Education and Higher Education committees. There are other folks.
An assemblyman
who is deeply involved in education. And then there is Richard Barrera, who is just a board member in San Diego Unified, albeit an important one.
Part-time job.
A part-time job, yeah. But last week, the California Teachers Association, the board of the California Teachers Association, voted to recommend an endorsement of Richard Barrera. That basically means that recommendation then goes to the state council, which is comprised of folks from all around the state, folks from the union from all around the state, who will vote on that endorsement this week, whether or not it should move forward, and we'll find out probably early next week. My understanding is it's a pretty good chance that they will just approve this recommendation, and that is a huge deal because it basically means that Barrera, this kind of underdog figure, is leapfrogging these much higher, or could leapfrog these much higher profile candidates in this race to essentially be the front runner. I mean, the CTA endorsed candidate has not lost in the state superintendent race. I looked this up since 1982. So, I mean, this could be, the seal of approval.
It's almost like nearly 20 years of advancing the cause of the union has helped him get this advantage.
Yes, almost. I mean, Richard, as you note, he doesn't really come from education background. He doesn't come from an education background. What Richard comes from is a union background. Richard has been a union guy at the UFCW, at the Labor Council, former head of the Labor Council. I mean, that is where his kind of bona fides are. He has labor bona fides that he then brought into the San Diego Unified Board and helped to really kind of steer the ideological ship and cement the alliance between labor and the San Diego Unified Board. He's really done an incredible job shaping this district to be one that is incredibly close and allied to labor. And so the fact that his 17 years of work may be just a week away from paying off in a very, very, very big way will be interesting. And all of this again is happening as these big waves of change are potentially hitting the superintendent of public education. Newsom's proposal to change this role isn't a done deal yet, but even then, Richard is the kind of person who has this power of persuasion and this power to work with people that I think is pretty rare amongst folks. And you see it even now in that he is working as a senior policy advisor for the current superintendent of public education.
Yeah, Tony Thurmond.
So you're telling me that the statewide education apparatus is going to have to accept that San Diego exists?
They're going to have to accept that San Diego exists. And also, I think more broadly, this can be viewed as a moment where the statewide union and labor apparatus is continuing to embrace San Diego in a way that they didn't really used to. We have Lorena Gonzalez, who is, in an incredibly influential role statewide. San Diego labor figures are increasingly more important on the statewide stage.
Well, if you're trying to bond with your San Diego daughter, now you have how the superintendent actually functions in state government.
Yeah, ask her if she's heard of Richard Barrera.
And how prominent labor is. We got a lot of good father-daughter bonding topics. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Voice of San Diego podcast, the most popular public affairs podcast recorded in Greater Little Italy in San Diego, near to the future possible home of the hub of African art at the San Diego Community College. We are the most popular public affairs podcast recorded in the near area of that potential rendering. I'm Scott Lewis, the CEO and editor-in-chief at Voice San Diego. Bella Ross is our social media producer. Jacob McQuinney is our education reporter. Andrea Sanchez Villafana is our managing editor, and Matt Scraby is the producer of the show. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.